Hello and welcome to Talk a Good Game. It's match preview of West Ham United against Arsenal. The Europa League is getting parked for a few days. It's back to the Premier League and it's back to getting Gonzo's thoughts on our upcoming opponents, please.
Arsenal, I think it's much of a muchness at the moment, Geo, really. I think there was a suggestion that maybe they had moved ahead and put some of their problems of recent years behind them. I still find them a bit streaky, if truth be known. I don't think they've quite got there yet, but I do think they have the right manager. I really do. I like him. Actually, I like what he's trying to do. He's frustrating to play against. It's still the worst bit of cheating I've seen all season was when he dragged the player and chucked him onto the pitch. How he didn't get red carded for that. I don't remember it in our first game. Anyway, beside that, not that I remember things like that and hold a grudge, but I think he's a really good manager. I think he's the right manager for them. I think they're in pole position for top four. I'll preempt your question. I think they will get top four. I think they'll beat Tottenham to it, which I do think represents progress for them. And that's all they can ask for at the moment. I think they've had a lot of lean times that they would consider it, but they were just so good under George Graham and then so good under Arsene Wenger. There's been a number of managers and it's not quite happened for them. And I feel you look at Unai Emery, not for too long, because you don't want to watch that kind of football for too long, let's be perfectly honest with you. But I do wonder if maybe they'd have stuck with him, believed in him. I don't think his English was very good, which I don't think helped, by the way. He might have got Arsenal playing at the heights that Villarreal are at the moment. I'm sure Arsenal would love to be doing that. But I do think they're on the right route back, Gio, and I think getting rid of Aubameyang did everyone a favour. Aubameyang, Barcelona, but most importantly, did Arsenal a favour. And I like what he's doing with the youth players there. I think they're on the right track.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've been very impressed by them this season, very impressed by Arteta. And obviously, they've got no European football, which is one of the biggest factors for them. But you have to then take advantage of that. And I think they have done. I think getting fourth would be an achievement for them. I've got a question about that coming up. But I think it would be a good achievement. You know, the youngest squad in the league. I think at times it shows. I do think at times it shows. However, I like what Arteta's doing there. They've got a game plan. In regards to Emery, I don't think Arsenal could have stuck with him because of that style of football. I think that's a big difference between the two managers for me, because when it doesn't quite work for Arteta, you can put up with it because you can see what he's trying to do. And generally, the football's quite entertaining, although you may not get the result at the end of it. Emery only works if he gets the result, because if it doesn't work out, then it's a bit boring. It's a bit like Allardyce at West Ham, really. He could only justify playing that way by points on the board at the end of the season. Arteta probably gets a little bit of leeway because the football is attractive. He does play attacking football. He does put the youngsters in there, and he's getting a lot of ticks before you even start looking at the points tally, which is important. He's getting a lot of credit in the bank already. And you do look ahead to what they're going to do next season. Obviously, it depends if they've got Champions League football or not. And I think it's quite good how decisive he's been. And you look around this sort of the Super League 6, if you like, and player power and stuff. We're seeing it at Man United. Chelsea's had it in the past, but they're a bit wonky at the moment. But Man City and Liverpool don't have that, and you can feel that that's what Arteta's trying to do. The Aubameyang was a perfect scenario. I think he could have done the same with Xhaka when he first arrived. He could easily have kicked him out of the club, but he didn't. Took him back, gave him another chance, but basically said, well, you're not getting a captain's armband, though. You will not be captain again after what you've done, but I'll give you another opportunity. He's shown really good, not just leadership, but almost like managerial ship. He's taken charge of that, and the power almost lies with Arteta, which I think is important because that's not always been the case at the Emirates. I think sometimes the players have had a little bit too much say in there over who the manager is and stuff, and I think that's gone now. Full credit to him. He's got his little project going. Coming up to the summer, big summer for a lot of clubs in the Premier. A lot of clubs in the Premier League have got a huge summer ahead of them. Our club and Arsenal as well, and I think they've done. If you look at Liverpool, they've done the signings that Klopp did with the likes of Sadio Mane going in there. Now Arsenal have got to go and do the signings of like Van Dijk and Alisson, which is big money signings, but you only make two possibly in the summer. That takes them into sort of up there with Chelsea. You're now competing with Chelsea next season. Can you finish above Chelsea next season? If so, that's further progress. Can you then go get a trophy again? That would be further progress as well. big ticket signings. Edu's already said that they know who they want and they're going to be trying to make 2 or 3 signings. Well, they've got to move fast and they're going to have to spend cash as well because the players they need are going to cost a lot of money. They need a number 9 that's walks into that Arsenal team because he's too good. He's too good to dispute. He's better than Lacazette. He's better than Aubameyang and where they're both leaving. But he just goes in there and claims his spot straight away. That's what Arsenal need. That's what Arteta needs as well. We'll get on to more Arsenal. Before we do, this video is sponsored by the One Football app. Now, there's some injury doubts for Arsenal ahead of this one. Arteta being a little bit secret squirrel over Saka is fit or not, as well as if Tomiyasu will start. But One Football might have some articles between now and the game. They'll keep you updated on there. West Ham fans, they'll keep us updated with the likes of what's happening with Kurt Zouma, who's going to be playing at centre-back for West Ham. Me and Gonzo discuss who we want to see playing at centre-back. Big game next Thursday against Frankfurt as well. You keep up to date with how Frankfurt get on this weekend. Well, Monday. They actually play Monday, Frankfurt. Keep up to date with how they get on because when you go into it, you can click competition, click Bundesliga, click on Frankfurt and see the results on the weekend. And of course, if they rest any players. And the best thing is the One Football app is completely free. Links in the description and pinned comments. Get it downloaded to your device today. And at 3:30 on Sunday, you'll get a notification that says West Ham v Arsenal lineups. You click on it, and there you go. The starting lineups for both teams. Bish, bash, bosh, as simple as that. Now, Gonzo, you've already said they'll finish 4th. You're correct. You did preempt that question. It has been sort of, Laura Woods was on Talk Sport a month and a half, 2 months ago, stating that if Arsenal got 4th, it would be an overachievement. And Jamie O'Hara, Tottenham fan, obviously, sort of argued against this. And well, no, it's not. You spent loads of money. You've got no European football. You will have done well to get 4th, but overachievement would be probably too much of a strong statement. Where do you sit on this? Is it a good achievement? Is it overachieving?
Well, I would pay no attention to what Jamie O'Hara says on the subject of Tottenham or Arsenal. I don't think he's able to speak with any sort of impartiality on either of us. No, seriously, it's like I don't know if you watched the Liverpool and Everton game. The worst person they got to commentate on that was Carragher because it was just awful. And it's like listening to Andy Goldstein when he shouldn't be able to talk about Manchester United. Just some people can't separate themselves. It's not like our site; it's a fan channel. Jamie O'Hara should be doing a Tottenham channel. Is really what he should be doing. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to what he says at all. An overachievement. I think it's about par. I've got to say. I think in January they tried to get the Serb who went to Juventus, who was a fantastic player. And I think had they got him and they bid, it's just they got gazumped by what's probably a bigger club. I do wonder if he regrets that decision now, because last time I looked, I think Juventus were in 5th in Serie A. And I think Arsenal look a bit more fluid. I'm pretty sure had Arsenal got him and they don't have the money, Arsenal would have finished 3rd this season. I think they're that close to it, and I like what he's doing. A massive overachievement. I think that probably ignores how much trouble they have. There's clearly something not quite right at that club for the managers they had recently, like Emery, not to be able to thrive. There's something behind the scenes. There's ownership. There's something or other. There's I know Edu's doing recruitment, as you mentioned. So I think you've got to take all that stuff into account if somebody's trying to get a club back on track. You can see it at Man United, which is probably a more extreme example. I think if he gets top 4, he would do a good job because the landscape is it's not old. It's not like just Fergie and Arsene Wenger going for the title and swapping a title each year. There's a lot of other clubs and good clubs in there which are vying for it. And it ain't easy anymore. I think it's a good season. I don't think it's overachieving. I think it's a good season.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well. I think it is an achievement, and that is it, not overachieving. I think at the start of the season, I expected Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea to be in the top 3. I expected Chelsea to be closer to the other 2. But then I thought 4th was up for grabs between Man United, Arsenal, Tottenham, ourselves, and Leicester. I thought that 5 would be the 5 then competing. And if you look at the league table, bar Leicester, I would suggest I was correct there. That there is down 3, then there's 4 of the 5 that I thought would be there. Wolves is the only team separating Leicester from the rest of us. So I think it would be a good achievement for them. It would be a different test for them next season, having Champions League football. But I actually think, while they've benefited from no European football this season, I do still think Arsenal could have benefited from a form of European football, perhaps not Champions League, but it would have allowed him to play some of the fringe players that he struggled to get game time from. You know, he's having to sort of put in Smith Rowe, take him out, put in Martinelli, take him out. Actually, if you had European football, they would have both got some form of first team football week in, week out, and it really would have benefited him because he's not afraid to use the younger players at Arsenal, which I like, and fair play to him. And final question, as always, any players you admire from Arsenal, please?
Yeah, you mentioned one of them earlier, Tomiyasu. I like him. We could do with someone like that if he's really sharp, really busy. I do like him a lot. I like Isengard. I think he's I think there's more to come from him. I really do. He was the wonder kid that signed for Real Madrid, and I still feel he's playing within himself. I think when he's fully unleashed and allowed to express his full repertoire of skills, there are a lot of them. I really do. I feel he's playing within himself. There's such a wonderfully talented, skillful player in there. Obviously, I don't not look forward to seeing that against us. Martinelli caused us all sorts of bother. I would suggest he was unplayable. I think, Gio, Arsenal were the best team we've played this season when they played us. I thought that was the most spanked we've got was when we played Arsenal earlier on in the season. So I found him very impressive. There was an argument on the boats yesterday about how Rob Holding is stealing a living and how he's managed to retain his stature as a professional footballer. They got some really good players. Saka is obviously a really good example. And I'll tell you what about Smith Rowe, what I always admire about these players. When he's quite timid, he's quite softly spoken. He's not got he's understated, isn't he? And players like that, their personality comes out on the football pitch and expressed in the way that they play their football. Like him.
Bowen.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But even Jared Bowen, to be fair, you probably see a bit more of a smile, a little bit more. I'm not saying Smith Rowe's miserable. He's just quiet. He's timid. He don't want the cameras on him or anything like that. Just quietly goes about his business, and he just becomes so expressive when he goes onto the football pitch. Yeah, they got a lot of good players, mate.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Martinelli fanboy myself. I think he's a bit rough. I think he could be polished into a real diamond of a player. He's still really young, though, physically big, really strong, skillful, very direct. I think he does. It's a bit weird because he's sort of right-footed at players on the left, but he doesn't mind knocking it 15 yards past his defender and running past him, as simple as that. Not something you would normally associate with a player that would like to cut in onto his stronger foot. It's usually for right-footed players on the right side and vice versa, like when we had Matthew Etherington. Just knock it past your man and run past him. Very simple, very basic. There's nothing wrong with it. Martinelli doesn't mind doing that. I think he's a bit wasteful at times. Needs a little bit of training, if you like, but he's got everything there to go on to become an elite player. I think he's a fabulous player already, but I think he can go on to become even better. A bit like what you're talking about with Odegaard, really. I think Thomas Partey's come into his own this season, as has Gabriel. I think them two have sort of really stepped up for Arsenal. I think Partey initially signed, you sort of thought, oh, that's not really settled in, looked a bit of a waste of money, but actually you're really starting to see why Arsenal took him to the club. And obviously Saka's a wonderful player as well. You forget how old Saka is, actually. I still do now. You'll be watching you'll be watching Arsenal play, and it might pop up with these stats, and it'll just say that he's 20 years old. You think, bloody hell, is he? I just assume he's like 23 now. It feels like he's been around a while, that he's been a...
He does look about 35, though, to be fair.
But it feels like he's been in the Arsenal first team for 5 years now or something. I mean, he might have not quite 5 years, but it feels like he's been in that Arsenal team for a long time now because of just how good he is. He's just first name on the team sheet every week, but he's backing up with goals and assists and stuff. He's just a wonderful player, and when he gets going, you're in trouble, essentially. If you're like, he's hard to get near because he can cut in, you can go past you. Just got everything, really, Saka. Good team, Arsenal. Lots of good players. Now we're going to talk about West Ham. But before we do, a couple of things very quickly. First of all, we've got a bit of an offer regarding some Martin Noble merchandise over on the Hammers Chat store. You go to hammerschatstore.com. Well named, I think. Links in description. We've got 2 Martin Noble t-shirts and a Martin Noble mug. If you wish to purchase any of them, up until 6 p.m. next Monday, we've got 16% off. All you have to do is use the code MN16 at checkout. We'll take 16% off for you. Simple as that, really. We've also got the boats running on Sunday, but if you want to know more details about either of those 2 things, please check out the description or the pinned comments of this video on how you can help the channel. Thank you very much for your support. Right, Gonzo, Sunday. No Craig Dawson. Craig Dawson suspended. Yeah. Kurt Zouma back. He returned against Frankfurt. He is back for us, so he is an option. what would you like to see him play? But before we do that, let's talk about keepers. I assume it's Fabianski for yourself.
No, it's not. No,
you gave him man of the match last week.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want no more chopping and changing. I want Areola in there to play, so as we just don't have another change when the Frankfurt game comes along. I don't want to. We've already got to have one change there with Dawson. I don't want it because I want to. I think we need to switch the formation for this game with Frankfurt in mind as well. So I don't want to change too many component parts. So I would keep Areola in there. But yes, Fabianski was fine in the last game.
I Fabianski for me. I get what you're saying, but I think the defense that's going to be playing against Arsenal is going to be different from the defense against Frankfurt. So I think, do you know what I mean? He's not going to be playing with the centre backs. Areola won't be playing with the centre backs that's going to be in front of him for the Frankfurt game. So Fabianski for me. So I assume, going by what you're saying, you would like a back four for this one.
No, I want a back five for this one, which is what I want to see against Frankfurt, which is why I want us to start practicing as much as we can, even though Dawson's not there. I want to see us practicing it for this game. So I will go with the back three of obviously the three centre backs would be Johnson, Zuma, and Cresswell.
You'd play Zuma even though he's.
So I don't think it's fitness. I think it's bruising. It's time to get the old needle out, quite frankly. And play through the pain. Yeah, basically.
I think I'd leave Zuma out. I think it feels like we've sort of rushed him back a little bit, but also he looked a little bit. A couple of times he needed the physio on Thursday night, didn't he? Particularly towards the end, and then when the physio went off, he was still limping around on the pitch a little bit. And it scared me. It spooked me too much, if you like. Do you not think we played a back three against Frankfurt in the London Stadium, though?
Did we not? I don't think we did.
I had, honestly, I'm not taking the piss. I genuinely, the second half, I think we played a back four, right?
Right.
First half, I think we played a back three. I could not work out what we were doing because of Ben Johnson's positioning and Fornals' positioning and then Creswell.
I did wonder if Fornals was a wing back when that goal happened, but I thought surely not.
So I was a bit confused. So I asked a couple of people, and they thought we were playing a back three as well. But one guy said to me, "Is that I'm bloody clue? Tried working out, couldn't tell you, still can't tell you." So I think we tried to play a back three in the first half against Frankfurt, and it didn't work, did it? But
well, the first half or the second half didn't work, quite frankly. So no,
quite Frankfurtly.
Absolutely. I don't want to talk about them, but I think look, we're struggling, we're searching to find something, and I'm sorry that the Arsenal game would be a training exercise, but it has to be really. But to get us sharp, I didn't feel, Geo, I mentioned this, I didn't feel that we had the benefit of dropping players, arresting players against Chelsea. It didn't look like a team. We just looked like just as knackered as we were anyway. So I almost wonder if they can try and play themselves into a bit of form with this one. So I would play Cresswell at left centre back. And I think for this game, I would play Masuaku at left wing back. And I would play Soufal at right wing back.
Well, I would like to see a back four. And it is very much almost because of who we're playing. So Soufal right back and Creswell left back as per. Then I'd have Elise centre back for this one. I think there's maybe a bit of a clue from David Moyes when he left him out of the under-23s game earlier on in the week, and obviously didn't play against Frankfurt, which I don't think we were expecting him to. But I think to take him out of the squad completely for the under-23s game on Monday night would suggest that Moyes is protecting him for something and getting him into training. We know he's been training with the first team this week as well. So I'd have Elise in there next to Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, as I said, back in four now. I am aware I have reservations over this. In the last couple of videos I've said I'm not sure about this. The only reason I'm doing it is because we're playing Arsenal. And by what I mean by that is they're not really a physical side. They're not really going to be crossing the ball. They'll keep the ball on the deck. And I think Johnson will be okay with that, actually. I think it'll be a tough test. It's obviously a dodgy pair to have in your back too with Johnson and Elise. I'm aware of that, but I'd like to see Zuma wrapped up in cotton wool for this one. I expect Moyes to play him, actually. I do think Moyes will play him, but it'll make me a little bit nervous. But let's move into midfield then. How would you like to see us line up? But before we do, what I will say, I agree with what you've just said about sort of fatigue, form, fitness, and that will be evident in my team as we get through. But how would you like to line up in midfield?
Well, whilst I said that, I'm going to disagree with myself. It's nice to have an argument with yourself, I find, because whilst I do believe in what I say, I think it's not true for one player, and that one player is Thomas Souček. So actually, I think he's the one person that does need a rest, or you can even label it as dropped if you want. I don't know if that gets the best out of him because he has a week's rest and he comes back better, or it gets a rocket up his backside because he feels he's been dropped. But I'm not impressed with. Well, I'm not impressed with him at all, actually, if the truth be known. And we need to try and get him firing ahead of that game. Because at his best, he is a massive threat to the opposition's defence. If he ain't posing, a massive threat to the opposition's defence, we're missing out. We're missing out on a big part of our attack. Now, in like the games with the Chelsea game, where we had an inexperienced defence, I felt, even though he was in midfield, he was almost like an auxiliary central defender. So actually got back and won a lot of interceptions, a lot of tackles. The way Frankfurt went through us, let's be fair, I was not impressed with either Souček's attacking play or his defensive play in that. So let's get him out of there. Probably just have to put Mark Noble back in for that one. I didn't think Mark was great in his last game, but I think he'll do better than Souček. And it may well find that it's going to be hard. There's not a lot of choice. You can't put Krau in there. Unfortunately, Coventry's out on loan. Noble's going to be in there, and he's, I'm sure he'll do. I'm sure he'll do us proud in there. I think Fornell's also. I'm going to give a little rest to as well in this one, so freshen it up a little bit. I would start with Lanzini though, and I would obviously start with Antonio in this one as well, and I'd start with Bowen.
It's a serious team that I like it. I get it. I mean, a lot of my players that you've got in as well. I also would leave out Thomas Souček, and like you said, you can label it up how you wish, whether it is resting him because I think he needs a rest, or dropping him because I think he needs dropped as well. So you can do both here. I had put Krau next to Declan Rice because of Mark Noble's performance against Chelsea. I just thought Chelsea took him apart, and I was a little bit relieved that Chelsea weren't that good because I thought if Chelsea were on their A game, if Mason Mount and Havertz were buzzing around, I think it could have been a bit problematic in the middle of the pitch. And I'm a bit worried that Arsenal will have that buzz that Chelsea didn't have for reasons we'll get on to and reasons we've just discussed, actually. They're playing for something. Chelsea weren't, and we saw that. Arsenal are playing for something. We will see that. So it's sort of like, well, who have you got? And it is Mark Noble or Alex Krau, really, or you start dragging in Fornal, centre mid, or Lanzini really deep next to Declan Rice. So for that one, I'd put Krau in and say, well, at the end of the day, he's a defensive midfielder. I want to see the shackles off Declan Rice a little bit. I almost want this to be an addition for Declan Rice to have almost like an offensive role against Frankfurt. Say, do you want to be the guy that's running at that Frankfurt defence? Well, here's your chance. Run at that Arsenal one and let's see what you've got, kind of thing. And so to get the best out of Declan Rice, I think Krau's probably the best player to have next to him. But this is going by what I've seen for Czech Republic in the qualifiers, what I've seen for West Ham. It's not great, is it? I'm having to really dig into the archives here. But listen, if you take the Kidderminster Harriers game to one side, I don't think Krau's been that bad. I mean, he must be horrific in training or something for Moy just to really leave him out. But you know something, Issa Diop was horrific against Kidderminster, and he's done all right in the other games. Yeah. So I think you could, if you're going to let Diop off with that one, I think you've got to let Krau off as well. So I'd have him in. Bowen on the right, the reason being, Tavares is their weak player for this game. No Kieran Tierney, so Tavares will probably start. Will be a good left back in years to come, I think. Still young, but you can tell. Let's get our best player up against their weakest player. It's as simple as that. I thought Bowen looked really good against Frankfurt, was running at his man consistently. On another day, he has 2 goals to his name, just denied by a really good save onto the post and hitting that crossbar with a wonderful overhead kick. Let's get Bowen up against the guy at left back, Tavares, and let's have him running at him. Ben Rama on the left must, really. Limited options. I think Fornals needs a bit of a break as well. Ben Rama looked good against Frankfurt. He will be up against either Tomiyasu or Cedric. will Tomiyasu start? I'm not sure. He's had a lengthy layoff. Arteta's been very secret about it. He sort of hasn't given anything away. If Tomiyasu starts, and Benrahma's probably the wrong one to play here. But if it is Cedric, Benrahma's the right one to play against, because then that gives our two wingers sort of a weak fullback to go up against, really. Antonio up front, the rest of them no good. Let's be honest with you. We left him out against Chelsea. He didn't benefit from it at all. So I'm a bit like yourself. Actually, maybe he needs a bit of match sharpness. Maybe he is better playing game after game after game and getting a bit of momentum behind him. Saying that, though, he got his goal. So that should give him a bit of a confidence boost going into this one. And then in the number 10 role, I'm actually going with Vlasic. I mean, I'm scratching my head as to where he's been the last few games. He's obviously on the bench. The only time I've seen him is when he joins in with celebrations. Where's he been? You know, we've needed goals against Chelsea. Why didn't he start? Why did he not come on earlier? I'm not sure. Against Frankfurt, we need a goal. Got a guy that cost 25 million on the bench. Why is he not on the pitch? So I'd put him on the pitch for this one in the number 10 role. That's important. Not on the wing. Let's get him in his best position. We might learn something.
Yeah.
He might thread a good ball. Because I'll tell you something, Lanzini was not good against Frankfurt. Lanzini was in the creative role, if you like, and we didn't see anything. Fornals was then in the creative role for the second half. We didn't see anything. So let's give Vlasic a little bit of a go against Arsenal. We might discover something. It's unlikely. Like for Al, the evidence I've got for Vlasic is what he did in Russia, not what he's done for West Ham. Let's have a go. Anyway, Gonzo, is this an important game? One thing that I think might change your mind, but I can't ask you this till Sunday. Wolves play on Saturday, so they play Brighton on Saturday. So obviously they lose. Happy days. It helps West Ham. But is this an important game? Because obviously we're a goal down against Frankfurt. Likelihood, probability, statistics, favourites is that we're going to go out of the Europa League next week, and therefore we've then got 3 Premier League fixtures back to back to try and get European football again. So we sort of don't want to lose touch of Man United, but at the same time, we don't want to risk players unnecessarily and get them injured ahead of Frankfurt. So a difficult game for Moyes to navigate, I think. Yeah,
but it's a huge game. It really is. Man United picks up a point against Chelsea, wasn't it? So they're 3 points ahead. We go above them if we win. So I think our goal difference is better, right? I'm right about that. I think I'm.
Yeah, you're correct. And then they play Brentford on Monday.
They play Brentford on Monday. Okay, well, I mean, that's not an easy game for them. You know, Brentford at the moment are in good form. I think actually Brighton. I know I'm a bit of a Brighton fan, but I always say Brighton. Brighton are good. I understand they do every season go a large, massive part of the season without winning any games, and they can't score goals. However, on their day, I'm going to say this. It's going to sound weird to say it. Brighton are a little bit unplayable, right? When they're up against it, and funny enough, Arsenal would testify to this. When they're buzzing, they're difficult. So Wolves, that's, you know, but we've got to take care of ourselves. We can't rely on Brentford and Brighton or anyone else beginning with B. We've got to go and do the job ourselves and get the points. And I didn't think it was bad what we saw in terms of the organisation against Chelsea. I thought it was terrible what we saw against Frankfurt in terms of the organisation. So we need to get back to that Chelsea organisation, practice it against Arsenal, and if we do, we might be able to come out of the game with something. But it is a massive game, but it's going to be hard to lift the players. Gio,
are you confident?
No, they're the best team we've played all season. I don't mean they're the best team in the league. They're not. But when we played Man City, they weren't at their sizzling best. When we played Liverpool, they weren't at their sizzling best, and we were bloody excellent, right? So basically, we played them when they weren't quite on tip-top form. We were on tip-top form. We're not on tip-top form at the moment. If Arsenal play anything like they played against us in the first game, they'll tear us apart. I'm sorry to say. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree. I think it is an important game, but it's hard to almost feel like it's an important game because of the European thing. You know, we can look at it black and white and say, actually, this is a huge game for West Ham. When you add emotion in, it's then the importance sort of shrivels up a little bit, because actually, you ask any West Ham fan, you beat Arsenal, you beat Frankfurt, what are you picking? We're all picking Frankfurt. None of us are picking Arsenal. So it is a huge game. But I think Moyes, it's difficult for Moyes to go into this one, I think, because had we won last night against Frankfurt, I think he'd almost think, right, I can just play my second team here. The fans will understand it. The likelihood is we're going to go into the final.
all eggs in one basket. But now we're a goal down. It's sort of like you've got to make sure we've got this safety net. You've got to make sure that if we go out next week, when we then go play Norwich, actually we are in the driving seat to get a European space next season. And obviously, while as a fan I don't mind the Europa Conference League, obviously I prefer the Europa League. I think the club will be thinking we need the Europa League. That Conference League thing's probably not ideal for us. We need to be in the same competition again. Therefore, we need to overtake Manchester United. We can do it. Man United are a bit of a shambles at the minute. 1 win in 7 or something silly like that. That's who we're up against. But the fact is, they've got 1 win in 7 and we've not overtaken them yet. That reflects our own league form at the moment, which isn't too pretty. Big game. I'm not confident either. It's hard to be because Chelsea weren't playing for anything last week, and while we gave a good show of ourselves, we still got beat. And I'm aware it came down to the last minute winner. They won, and I wouldn't say they deserved to win, but there was no controversy in my eyes regarding their 3 points. They scored the goal, we didn't. But the motivation for Arsenal is 10 times bigger than what Chelsea had last Sunday, and I think we're going to see a different animal of a team coming at us. They've, had a bit of a rest. Arsenal, they're fine. Everything points to an Arsenal win for this one. I hate to say it. Obviously, it depends on what team Moyes puts out. We won't know until Sunday. I imagine it'll be a strong one. I do wonder if maybe after the Chelsea one, he thought, I wish I just played a couple of my players. We might have just got 3 points from that. Never mind 1. We need to make sure that the league campaign is up and running. We might be able to lose and get away with it, but I think it feels like we've had too many of them recently where we've lost, but actually because Wolves and Man United have done rubbish as well, it's fine. It feels like too many. We can't rely on that anymore. Maybe if Wolves win on Saturday, it might actually be a good thing for us because it'll put a rocket up our arse saying, listen, Wolves are right behind you now. You cannot afford to slip up anymore. Otherwise, you're going to know European football. So can I get any final words from yourself, Gonzo, as well as your all-important score prediction, please?
Yeah, I think they've got a hell of a job lifting the players for this. I don't just make it down about the Frankfurt thing. There's 1 goal in it, right? That tie is retrievable. It's the concentration of that massive game, the biggest game, not only of the season, but the biggest game of most of their careers thus far, coming up only a few days afterwards. We're really hard to get them to focus on this Arsenal game. Whilst David Moyes, I would send out the strong team that I suggested or you suggested or whatever, but I would make it so I do 2 substitutions at halftime. And I'd sort of have them in my mind. I have 3 or 4 candidates for that. So at least I feel I've gone for it. I've tried to get some points from Arsenal, but I'm still insulating, players a little bit. It's the best of both worlds. It gets them a rest and it sort of keeps them sharp ahead of the Frankfurt game. And I'm talking about the big hitters here, obviously. The scoreline, I think it's hard, mate. I just can't really see any way for us to win this one for the reasons that I said. I think motivation as much as anything. Do I think David Moyes and a motivated West Ham can organise defence not to concede against Arsenal? Yes. Do I think from that point we can then hit them on the break? Yes. And beat them? Yeah. But I just don't. I think the mindset's a big one for this. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to lose 3-1.
It is going to be difficult. I think Craig Dawson, I never thought I'd say this, Craig Dawson's going to be a big miss for us as well on Sunday. I don't think there's an obvious answer for David Moyes at centre-back either. What's he do? Does he do the same again against Chelsea? Just puts Zuma in, takes Dawson out? Then you've got an 80% fit Kurt Zuma playing centre-back as your main defender. It's not ideal. It sort of backs up against the wall, really, and this is where having a small squad can bite you in the arse a little bit. And I think against Frankfurt, I feel like 1 or 2 of them just looks like the season's catching up with them a little bit in terms of fitness and fatigue. It feels like a couple of them just look a little bit tired at the minute, which is understandable. It's been a long season, lots of games, lots of minutes, domestic cups as well as European football and stuff. It's been a big ask of the players, and they've given their all, and they will continue to do so on Sunday. I just think that a lot of things need to happen for us to win. That is us to play probably our strongest team. Arsenal not to be quite at it, for us to be 100% at it. So I'll be surprised if we get anything from this game. Pleasantly surprised. So I'm going to say West Ham 1, Arsenal 2. Anyway, if you somehow enjoyed this preview, drop a like on it. You can't say we're not honest. That's one thing you can't say. And do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Myself and Gonzo will be back on Sunday. It's a 4:30 kickoff. So we'll be live at 3:25, bringing you the latest team news ahead of the game as West Ham take on Arsenal. Arsenal going for 4th, West Ham going for 6th. you can join us at 3:25 on Sunday. Catch you in a bit.